So I gathered 5 of my friends to help me AI generate this video. I had them each take turns giving me a prompt to continue the script. But the twist is that the only context they received was the end of the scene just before. What you're about to see is the final product of us acting out this strange game of telephone. And the prompts they gave will be in the closed captions, so feel free to turn those on if you want to follow along. And with that, I present to you... Yo, we're in a desert.
I don't think we're gonna find water around here.
I already found some cactus.
Walk. Oh, I can't run
Of course. Yo, we should rob this village.
We have cometh upon the humble citadel of this new civilization. I suggest we treat it with respect, as the locals deserve.
I agree with Cosmocraft. We should respect the villagers' property and not steal from them.
True.
These people are very hard.
I think we should focus on our own survival and not risk getting into trouble with the villagers or other players who might be on the server.
Hey, you know, wait, we can actually trade with them.
Oh, you're so right. That is what the villagers are.
True, yeah.
This is a nice place. I think we should settle down here. Perhaps christen it Alda.
True.
Like the British supermarket chain, but with a different vowel at the end.
I like the name.
Geoblitz, we appreciate your company, but it seems like you're not really helping out. We need everyone to pull their weight if we want to make this village thrive.
Look at these crazy structures I'm building. I'm sure they're
You sacrilegious! Oh, well, you know, Geoblitz. Again, we can't just have freeloaders here. You know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And while we appreciate your company, I think that your services would be better served in hell. So why don't you go there? Real quick? Not in the metaphorical sense, in the literal one.
Yes, you go to the Nether. Maybe you can be useful to us.
Oh, I know the Nether. Yeah.
Yes, there's some good piglins there. You can get deals.
The art of the trade.
One of the greatest trade deals of all time.
Art of the
Yeah,
deal.
how about, you know, we had that portal over there. You should go.
Yeah, there is a portal like right over there
Go
somewhere.
back to the portal.
Hey, alright, don't mind if I do.
Alright.
Yeah.
Excellent.
See ya.
Here, I think the portal's over there.
That is much appreciated.
What?
What?
Oh shit! Oh, good lord!
Oh wow!
Hey!
Oh,
wait, I was alright.
Well,
hey.
Tell me, Geoblitz, how did you manage that?
I'm home.
How did you how?
Hey, listen, I'm just built different, alright? Those piglins, I just, you know, hit him with that Geo Riz, and you know.
How did you get gold from that?
Oh, listen, you were feeling a little charitable.
Where'd you get that netherite?
That netherite? If you didn't know, there's a little thing called the Nether. That's where the nether is from.
Holy.
Oh wow!
Holy
yeah.
smoke.
No,
Orthodox
would you like
Clinton.
16 gold, or should I double it and give it to the next person?
Double and give it to the next person.
Double and give it to the next person. I suggest celebrations are in order.
Yeah!
Yeah.
See, for once my fireworks aren't being used for terroristic activity. Geoblitz, get over here. Hey guys, we're just gonna have a private conversation.
Okay.
And primarily in regard to defense economics.
Yeah.
Geoblitz, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
It's very boring bureaucratic.
Okay, yeah, everyone let's just like go away.
Get over here.
Yeah.
You guys want some bread?
So, your performance in the Nether was exemplary, to say the least.
Oh.
Professional
Yo,
meeting.
chill.
Leave the cows alone.
Oh, I thought they were like disturbing
Your
us.
performance in the Nether was absolutely exemplary, and we think you'd make an excellent candidate for society.
Oh, society. Okay. Well, what do you have in mind? What's this purpose of this society?
That is a secret for members only. Double sharpened flies with a wink. But first, you must undergo the trial of 1,000 wolves.
1,000
That's quite a bit of wolves.
That's a lot of wolves.
Yes. Excuse me one moment, I need to pull out my papers.
I'm a little confused.
It's been a long while since we've conducted this recruitment ritual. You see, so the trial of 1,000 wolves is a test of your courage, your strength, your prowess in battle. Now, you must venture into the forest, and can you guess what you have to do?
Something to do with 1,000 wolves. Oh, I gotta defeat 1,000 wolves.
Within the span of 3 days.
3 days. Plenty of time.
That's
It's not that difficult.
333.333 wolves per day. Quite a bit. Now,
My, it's a lot.
if you can prove yourself capable of this feat, you will be part of our society.
Oh,
To join our society, you must be bold. Venture into the forest, fierce and cold. Defeat 1,000 wolves, no time to scold, or your fate in the society will never be told.
That's what I always say.
My boss wrote that. It wasn't
oh, okay. I mean, that was kind of fire. That was kind of heat.
Thank you.
1,000, I can't even count to 100. So 1,000, but you know, I think I'll manage.
And remember, if anybody asked, we were talking defense economics.
Godspeed, Hunter.
Hello.
Hello.
This meeting has been
Hello.
concluded.
Nothing too crazy.
Geoblitz is
Guys,
going on
sit around the
a trip.
campfire.
Going
Yeah,
on a little
I
trip.
have a little business trip to go on.
That's sweet.
Sorry, duty calls.
All right.
Yeah.
Duty calls? Alright. Kid named Duty.
Okay.
All right.
Goodbye.
I'm
Godspeed,
see
wherever
you
you're
guys,
going.
in a bit.
Yeah.
Godspeed,
3 days,
Hunter.
3 days. It's 3 days long, guys.
3 days.
Okay.
Wow. You can
Okay.
be away for a
Okay.
while.
Bet.
Have fun.
Cosmocraft, I'd like to have a chat.
Alright. Listen, Sharpie, this is something I've been meaning to talk to you about for quite a while.
I just want to let you know, no matter who you love, no matter who you are, I support you.
Sharpie, I think I'm a communist.
A communist? Really?
Yes, I know, it's difficult to imagine, but I've been doing some reflection on the way
Oh
our group
lord, I'm gonna
operates,
need to
and
take a seat. Do you have a seat?
yes, please.
I'm gonna need to
have
take
a seat.
Sorry.
I-
Ooh,
I-
communist.
I understand what it sounds like, but I've been thinking about our group dynamic and come to realize that functionally we're already engaging in communal living, right? Now, I don't know what to say. I think it's time that we spread the word.
I don't know, Cosmocraft. Communism has a pretty bad reputation in some circles. Plus, we already have our own secret society. Isn't that a bit counter-revolutionary?
No. You see, think about it. Our secret society is all about seizing power and wealth for ourselves. Communism is all about seizing wealth and power for ourselves. I mean, for other people. So, I think that those two are functionally mutually inclusive. I think that we can use our society as an instrument by which we can propagate the rhetoric of communism and bring about a state of revolution across the entire infinite world.
But we have to be careful. Not everyone will be receptive to communism, especially in a game like Minecraft where people are used to fending for themselves.
I have a plan.
Have you read?
Did you guys
Hey,
just say
excuse me.
you're a
I was
communist?
having. No. I said I was gay. Get out.
He did say that.
Hold
Yeah.
on. I heard something about communism.
Yes.
What is going on?
Okay. I've been doing some reflection on the nature of this group and sort of figured that we could do with a new system of governance. And as a longtime communist, I decided to come out of the closet to my close friend here.
You can't
Thank you for your
seriously
support.
think that like communism is like a good thing, right?
I can. That's literally what I just said. It's the fairest system. Everybody gets an equal share. Under capitalism, some people hoard and concentrate wealth and abuse their power, something we communists would never do.
Great theory.
Yeah, but that's not how it works in reality. Those with
Really?
power always end up abusing it.
I suppose we can agree to disagree.
Friends, we need to take action to protect our village. Cosmi's plans, that are communist, obviously, could lead us down to a dangerous path. We need to establish a layer of protection by holding an emergency election to elect a leader who will represent and protect our
Yeah. I mean, he's got a point. I agree.
Well, hello, good sir. Are you interested in voting for the Communist Party? With me as its leader? I believe you are. Have some herbal medicine.
Hello, my good villagers. You are workers, are you not? You work the land. You are growers. You support the rule of the workers, do you not? You support the communist revolution. I urge you, please boycott the election. Cosmocraft is a revisionist and an agent of the board. Hello, Cosmocraft.
May I ask what the hell you're doing?
I don't believe in the democratic process. It's all a facade to maintain the ruling class's hold on power. You're not a true communist, Cosmocraft, and I'm willing to say it to your face. Selling out the people for the few seats on a council, you're nothing but a revisionist.
Have you gone mad?
We must.
You are dividing us. You are dividing us.
Marketplace of ideas. Let me talk.
You explicitly rejected the marketplace of ideas.
You're silencing free speech. You're silencing free speech. You're silencing free speech. You're silencing free speech. We must reject the illusion of bourgeois democracy.
You call me a revisionist. I call myself a pragmatist. You have no idea what Marx argued for. You haven't even read Marx. You haven't read Marx either. You walk around with that little red book preaching about counter-revolutionaries. You don't know what the original theory states. All you care about is power. You are a Machiavellian.
You're a revisionist.
You took the Prince and read it as a manual and not parable.
You're a revisionist.
Settle this on the marketplace of ideas, you say? You seek to bankrupt that marketplace. Settle it on the field of battle.
My soul-cleaved glaive will cleave your soul from your body. 10 paces.
Renounce
1,
your bigotry
2,
or we must
3,
fight.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We must fight.
You don't want to do this. You brought bombs to a knife fight. Have you even read theory? Marx explicitly said that explosive devices are not an honorable form of duel.
Reactionaries burn in hell. Reactionaries burn in hell.
There's some irony there. And true Marxists don't believe in hell. They believe in a secular state. They believe in a secular state. How does it feel to know that all your ideas are wrong? That you're betraying the very man whose principles you claim to vehemently uphold? With such sacrilege,
you've left
you
me no
turn your
choice.
blade. You turn your blade on your own ally.
No choice, Cosmocraft. I must activate my ultimate power.
What? Why are you glowing?
I'm glowing with the light of the revolution. I'm glowing with the light of the people.
Oh Lord, just the spirit of Marx, sinner.
Debout les hommes de la terre. Debout les hommes de la femme.
Well, that was unfortunate. Where did you get that?
It's a secret passed down from my family for generations. My grandmother was a farmer's wife. My grandmother brewed in her she worked from dawn to dusk on the farm, pulling the plow herself. They didn't even have oxen in those days. But by the candlelight, she brewed up this potion, a powerful brew a powerful mixture that would fill me with the light of the workers and allow me to victorious battle and glory. She was a very powerful warrior.
You destroyed a family heirloom, passed down from generation to generation because you could not defend your own ideology sufficiently.
Concern for tradition is a reactionary trait.
What are you?
I have been saving this for a special occasion.
What are you planning to do with that?
You see, I'm gonna blow up the competition. All right, that's what I'm gonna do.
You wouldn't dare.
Oh yeah. Watch me.
Oh!
Get
out of here.
Uh-oh.
Oh God!
Oh my.
Oh, what?
Oh.
See him? He's out there. We can't let him get away with this.
We can't let him get away with this.
I think there's someone in there. I think we need to set aside our differences. Hands up!
Hands up! What are you doing here, Zach?
I was chasing him, and I stumbled across this hidden room.
These blocks are part of a secret society we're part of. We call ourselves the Red Wolves, and we're committed to bringing communism into this world.
And how does this relate to the trial of the 1,000 wolves?
The trial is meant to test your loyalty to the cause. If you're willing to risk your life by hunting down 1,000 wolves in the Nether, then you're deemed worthy to join the Red Wolves. It's sort of a two-tier system. We have the regular trial of 1,000 wolves, and then the Nether version.
This is insane. Are you willing to risk innocent lives for your ideology?
Oh man.
See, again, not really. You're the one risking your own life voluntarily because you want to be a part of the ideology. That's not exactly a fair thing to criticize us for, is it now? Also, in any case, the end obviously justifies the means. Now, if you're not with us, then you're against us. So which is it?
We're consequentialists.
Okay, I see. Well, I can't really like let you put innocent lives at risk. So I'm gonna have to stop you.
Will you now?
This
Well,
guy.
keep going.
This guy's, come on, get out of here. Get out of here.
Going. Well, Cosmocraft, I'm glad that we've decided to set apart our ideological differences, at least for the time being. That's more of a concern for after the revolution.
I agree. You know, classical Marxist, Maoist, Leninist. We all hate centrists, right?
I'm none of those things. I'm a.
That's what matters.
Holy smokes!
Unfortunate. Just
Retreat! We need to
suggest we
reassess our
refine a
actions and
more-
start over.
Yes.
This is exactly why we need to seize the means of production and eat the rich.
That's me. And I'm back. I managed to defeat 1,000 wolves and came out alive. It was an incredible journey.
Tell me everything. What happened during the trial?
I think we should settle down over a nice cup of tea, maybe some pie, and you know, go over this little expedition. Oh, what's going on down there? Looks like some. Is that like a new mining method or something? Don't mind these dogs. You know, 1,000. You know, there was actually 1,003 wolves in that forest, so decided to take these ones with me. So where's the company? Well, how's the society going?
I'm done fighting, okay? From now on, I just want to make the best and most delicious sweets for everyone to enjoy. I don't like fights anymore. I just want to live a peaceful life.
Sounds like there's been a lot of chaos and violence around here. You know, maybe it's time for us to come together as a community. You know, move forward peacefully. You know, I learned a lot of things on my little expedition. Violence wasn't always the answer.
This is simply just unacceptable. You can't just have one piece of pie or one type of pie. In all of Minecraft, there has to be more.
Yo, what's up?
Oh, hey.
What are you guys talking about?
Man. Oh, you know, various pies, flavors of pies, you know. Oh, I love pie.
We have to do something about this.
Oh, there is no problem with pumpkin pies. They're awesome.
But there is a problem. We need more variety.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I hear something over here too.
Oh,
Whoa.
goodness. Let me see this. You guys like books? Look at this book.
But the ingredients for this pie are insane.
Damn, we need
to perform some kind of demonic ritual and unleash eldritch horrors into the world to get them.
I mean, do we have any other choice though? Do we have any other choice?
Oh.
Oh, do you guys hear that? Whoa.
That was intense.
God, I feel a little funny.
Me too.
Bro, I think I'm tripping. Wait.
It might have been
Don't tell
intense, but it was worth it. This right here is the future of Minecraft pies.
Oh, it was worth it.
What?
It was all worth it.
No way. That's pie. That's pie. That's not pumpkin pie. That's not pumpkin pie.
It's not pumpkin pie.
That's not pumpkin pie.
This is taking its sweet time. I think we're almost set to build a bomb.
Are we now?
Yes, yes.
Cosmocraft, have you ever thought about why we're building the bomb?
What do you mean? Why?
I don't know, it just doesn't
You want to
seem
know why? Look outside the window. Does that look normal to you?
I suppose there are eldritch horrors out there.
God, they keep getting closer. This is the time to feel more, to feel more confident in our beliefs, not waver.
Is
This is
it?
a time of need for the world.
I don't know, Cosmocraft, even with your...
You spend all day grilling, you spend all day cooking food. Are you becoming a liberal, a centrist?
No, no.
Our best conventional weaponry fails to stop them. They draw closer and closer and closer. The world is falling apart. We need something more powerful than just pure idealism, right?
Cosmocraft, what are you saying? Nuclear weapons are dangerous. They could bring about the end of the world.
No. They bring about the end of this world. Yes, but not the end of the world. There's a new world beyond. And the only way we can achieve peace is through sacrifice, right? Isn't that what Marx said? Isn't that what he wrote?
I don't know, Cosmocraft. This doesn't quite sound like Marxism, and if it does, I don't know if I quite believe in Marxism anymore.
Well, quite frankly, irrespective of whether you do or do not, I am firm in my belief. We will have another revolution, and it will be powered by the ultimate force in this world. We will ride forth on horseback with swords forged in nuclear fire, and only then will there be peace in the world.
I don't know, Cosmocraft. I really like steak. Liberalism feeds the people. Do you think we got all this steak from communism?
Did you
No,
know
we
that there's
bought this
over
from a
4 billion
trader.
calories in a gram of uranium? This world ends, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry.
Perhaps.
What the hell?
What? Who are you? What did you
Do
do?
you not recognize me? I'm Ensla. Hello? I've always had that power, you know?
What power? I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, nor have I.
Hear me out. I can turn invisible, right? But only when no one is directly looking at me.
Well, that's kind of the point of visit.
Does not seem like a very useful power.
It seems reasonably useful. Put the uranium down.
You know, I don't know about that, you know.
Put it down.
Good luck. You know, good luck with that.
Oh, is
you
that
know?
a fly on the wall?
Never see me coming.
Kill it.
Wait,
Oh.
where'd she go?
That was a bit of a mistake on our end, I believe.
How are we gonna freaking contain these eldritch horrors? What are we gonna do about this? What?
Hello?
Oh, ow. Okay.
What happened, Ensla? Where'd you come from?
Dude, I don't know. I was stealing Cosmocrast's uranium, and then, like, now I'm here.
Stealing? Why? What for?
I don't know. I just felt like trolling them, honestly.
Ensla, you've always been a bit quirky, but this is something else. What kind of power did the Eldritch Horrors give you?
You know, just the ability to see into the future. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, you know, just the ability to see into the future, but only while I'm humming.
Wait, why? Why that specifically?
Dude, I don't know. Honestly, like, if you think about, like, the universe works in its, like, you know, mysterious ways, you know? Like, it's destined, you know?
Quirky
Yeah.
ways, even.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He has a beautiful voice.
Yeah, it looks like the future's clear as long as I keep humming.
So you know how we kept that missile hidden from Ensla and the other members of the secret society, the Red Wolves?
The missile?
Rather dangerous thing.
We can't.
Oh,
we
you're not
can't-
aware of this?
I wasn't. I thought our entire supply was
I
taken.
suppose it's better hidden. Than you could have even imagined.
Perhaps I've been a little bit busy grilling, as they say. I do have to say that we can't let Insula get their hands on that.
It's our last resort. We cannot risk having it fall into the wrong hands.
Aha, well, where did you hide it? If you hid it well enough, perhaps that is not a risk that we'll have to worry about.
In plain sight. I disguised it as a giant pumpkin, and no one has been able to tell the difference.
That's the most ridiculous f***ing thing I've ever heard. What if Insula just decides to smash every pumpkin they see like any rational human being would? Genius.
It's just a risk we have to take. We cannot afford to let Ensla launch that missile.
I can't believe this is happening. Like, how do I get out of here? What is this? We need to shut this off before it's too late.
Alright guys, I believe I have an idea. If we overload the power source, it just shut down the entire redstone machine.
You're so smart.
I'll help you. We need to work together to save everyone from these debuffs.
You'd think we'd have put in an elevator here by now.
Water is God's elevator, my friend. Now, look at this beauty. You wouldn't even think it was a nuclear bomb.
No, I really wouldn't. I would think it's a giant pumpkin.
It requires a very special spell to get inside.
Impossible!
I didn't think it was gonna have to come to this, but this might be the only way to destroy the Eldritch horrors and save the world.
I mean, we didn't slave away in the mines for nothing.
Business is booming.
Aren't we supposed to be anti-business? Never mind.
Oh my God! There's a missile in the sky.
Oh.
Well,
What do we do about that?
I've seen the feature, and the only way to stop that missile is for someone to sacrifice themselves and steer it away from the town.
oh my. Well, I'll send Zack Plays into an alternate reality where he can find the gear he needs to make a sacrifice.
Wait, what? There's an alternate reality? And also, why do I need to sacrifice myself? Why not you?
Well, during the trial of 1,000 wolves, I learned to travel through different realities. I'll send you to a reality where there's a clone of yourself who has the necessary gear to steer that missile away. Let's get it started. Oh.
What is this? Okay. Hello? Who are you? I'm Zach from another reality. My friend Gio, he sent me here to find some gear and steer away a missile or something. It's pretty confusing. I've been trying to find a way out of this library for ages. I've got lots of gear, including an elytra and fireworks. Take them and save your town. Okay, thanks for the help. And ooh, thanks.
Wait a second.
Wait. Hello?
I've been watching you both. It's a little strange to see two of you, but I think I get the situation.
Yeah, I had the same feeling. It's pretty weird.
Okay, I guess I'll send you back now.
Okay.
Zach, you're back.
Yo, I'm back finally.
All right.
Look at what I got.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
I got the drink. I guess it's time to stop the missile, isn't it?
Good luck.
Yeah. Goodbye. Forever. Goodbye.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
that's
Say
what.
that. Don't.
Well, I guess he does.
guys don't
He's
even
gonna
love
know
me,
for
okay?
sure.
Oh wait. Okay. There we go. Now fly it into the ocean or the river or whatever it is. Shit, it's not working. Okay, we're flying into mountain. The mountain is fine. The mountain's fine. Okay.
Oh my God.
Looks like Zach's ending was a bit of a blast from the past.
No, that is so uncool of you guys. By the way, did you know that 99% of people that watch this video are not actually subscribed? So if you haven't already, please do subscribe.
What the
What is happening?
I don't know. Who knew Zach could come back as a ghost?
Whoa.
Overlord.
Oh my god. Okay, we have to do something. Like, they're gonna destroy this hallway. We have to do something, like, right now.
Oh my god.
Can we, hey,
is that?
overlords? I think we got off to the wrong foot. Can we start over? Oh god!
No.
Wait, but I'm already dead, so can I not die anymore?
Don't know.
How does this work?
Here it goes.
What just happened?
I saw this in the future, being transported to like another dimension.
I guess let's keep exploring.
We need to figure out a way to defeat them. We can't let them destroy everything we know and love.
Oh,
Whoa.
What is this?
What is?
It looks kind of like
Da-na-na-na.
Ba 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 ba.
what?
Ba-ba-ba-ba.
Ba 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 ba. We've created this binding circle to trap the Eldritch overlords in the ether. We'll do it in exchange for amnesty for all of our crimes.
It means we won't be punished for our crimes. We won't have to pay for our sins. We won't have to amend for our admittedly significant mistakes. So
You are dumb as hell.
It's
Really?
the only way, Ensla.
it's not wise to look your savior in the eye or your shepherd in the heart and say you're dumb as hell. Maybe
Look into your
please don't
vision.
kill me
You know
would be
it to
more ideal.
true.
Hey,
No.
get this, hear me out. I was Flash J.
Oh, good. Just checking.
Are we speaking the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
language?
I get it. It really is the only way.
Lorem ipsum
Lorem
dolor
ipsum dolor
sitamit.
sitamit.
Lorem ipsum dolor sitamit.
Waniam.
Lorem ipsum dolor sitamit.
Out of this.
Looks like we just Lorem trapped him.
So then now we have to jump off to return home.
Hey.
Oh wait, I have Zach's soul.
Oh.
Oh,
Wait, what just happened?
You died.
but we revived you using your soul crystal.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Once Dunko's outro starts playing, we'll all
Oh,
cease to exist.
no.
God.